Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Ellen. So today we're playing with wet on wet again and some masking fluid. Really just kind of playing around with color, moving it around, seeing what we come up with when we use all these combinations. My actual intention kind of morphed, so it was supposed to be more yellows and greens, but I put some purples and blues to create this kind of atmospheric meadow field. Springtime meadow field. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment section. Also, please don't forget to hit the bell notification button to know my tutorial is up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. You know, we're having fun over here, painting, playing intuitively. Like I said, mine morphed into something a little different today, and that's what happens when you're just kind of playing. You know, I have a plan and then it kind of switches up. Also, check out my Patreon. I have ad-free videos, traceables, exclusive tutorials, and a live stream in the top tier. Also, a Facebook group page where you can share your stuff and talk to each other about what's working and not working for you. You can check it out right here. It's a little dot icon up here. You click on this little dot icon. It's like a little eye, boom, right up under my fingernail. And then that's where you click on and you see what the Patreon is. So without further ado, let's get to painting. Okay, for this video, let me go over some supplies. I'm using Arch paper, 100% cotton cold press, and it's 9 by 12 piece of sheet. I always talk about this technique I'm going to be doing today using like either like a plastic sheet. You can get like a plastic clipboard or just a piece of plexiglass from like Home Depot. This is from a palette, portable palette, not palette, but portable easel thing that I have. But it's just plastic, right? Because it will adhere to it. We'll go over the paint brushes as we use them. I'll be using masking fluid for the beginning part of this. And we'll just be using some floppy brushes to put color in. I have a Princeton 12. You could even use a bigger one than that. You can use a flat wash brush. And then we'll go back in with like an 8 or something smaller. So I have reference photo here. I'm not going to paint it as is. Maybe I'll just take some of this and then do my own thing on the side. I always like to take photographs and just kind of like use them for inspiration. I love how like these white little splotches are just kind of, you know, they're daisies, whatever they are. And they look like buttercups or something like that. It's like a spring floral. I don't like how it's so yellow in here. I might add some depth in here, and then there's depth in the background. I'll change it up a little bit. So you want to just take your masking fluid and, oh, actually they are, what do you call it? I'm losing brain cells today. Dandelions here. I see some dandelions, and then they're like little flowers. So we can play around with that. You could put dandelions in it. So take masking fluid. I have this really inexpensive PBO drawing gum. You can just start to put in some little flowers like this that look like little flowers or daisies, or even if you wanted to have the dandelions, kind of have some clustered ones, some big ones, some small ones. You can put little stems coming from them on the bottom there. Wiggle out some more stems. See, I'm just wiggling stems. There's no trace for this. There's just me moving like paint around. See? Like little delicate flowers. You can make a little bit bigger ones if you want. And if you wanted to do like the dandelion shape, you know, it's basically the little lines looking like a dandelion. We're just going to be, oop, that's a little too thick for me. You can always wipe it away. But yes, you do like that. And you can take some of this and just kind of like splatter it too. Up here. Intentionally. And then do some like little, you could do like a little butterfly up here. All that fun stuff. So yeah, just playing around with your masking fluid. Have you ever tried playing around with masking fluid? Little stems again. I'm kind of like going like this to the left. You know, you could choose whichever way you want. And actually do some real like daisy type leaves in here. You're gonna have fun with this. So you just put it around here, and you have to wait till it dries. So how you know when it's dry? It kind of feels sticky to the touch. So I'm just gonna fill in some more blooms in here. See, I didn't like this little splotch, so I'm gonna use that to my advantage. Make like a little bunch of flowers sticking in here. And you can make them as big as you want. I think it's best to keep them kind of in a cluster. So notice how I'm kind of clustering it around this section here. And then I have a few floating ones here. And listen, once you pull it off, if you don't like it, you can always just paint over it. Let's put a little butterfly out here. It's a little butterfly shape. Just gonna do some little dashes out here. And again, you can put some like grasses. It's all preference. Simple. All right, so once that's dry, we're gonna start to play around with our wet on wet and all that fun stuff. But don't be afraid to do all this splattering and having fun. All right, I'm gonna let it dry. Okay, once it's dry, make sure you mix up some fairly good, a lot of paint. Light greens, dark greens, or have your blues or colors, whatever you want to use. Maybe some purples. I might throw in some purples here. Kind of have them ready to go. Here's a purple. Make a pink, bright rose, and ultramarine blue. Make a nice purple. You want to have the colors ready to go. So when you do the wet on wet, I mean, it won't dry in this technique that fast, so you have plenty of time to kind of play with it. And see, I'm using the number 12. By the way, I don't know if I mentioned, use a kind of a crappy brush for your masking fluid so you don't wreck it. So we're going to get both sides of the paper wet. You can either use like a sea sponge, which gets a lot of surface area, or just a flat wash brush. I find the sea sponge faster, so I'll just dip it in the water. You can't see it, but I'll turn it over and I'll get this side wet. There's pigment on there. Whoops. That's okay. You're not going to see that side. Just hope it doesn't happen on this side. So you get this side wet. So whatever big brush you have, not soaking wet, but wet. And what it's going to do is going to adhere to that plastic like glue. Get all of it wet. And boom, it sticks. It's like glue. And if it wasn't sticking, maybe you don't have enough water on one side. There we go. It's kind of like having a block, but not really a block. Okay, stick this down. And now I'm going to do this side. Get this side wet. The sea sponge gets a lot of surface area, so it works great. So now this is all wet. It's not soaking wet, but it's wet, really wet. You can see the shine of it. And now the fun begins. It's also good if you have some kind of thing you can prop your stuff on here. I have a little container of my paints and I just kind of prop it on. It's probably like an inch prop up. You can have it higher or lower, whatever you want to do. And then we just start to play with adding in our colors. So I'm going to loosen up some ultramarine blue too. So the sky, I know the background of this is dark green, but I'm kind of thinking I want a sky, maybe some green. So I'm going to play around with adding some blue. Like this. I'm changing it up. I'm looking at this thing for inspiration. Blue, blue. I can add some green to it. Getting that blue. Can add some Prussian blue or even navy. Get a little darker. See, it's dripping downward because it's all wet. I might add a little bit of green now. Or you can just add some yellow to make it green. See, go in and grab the yellow, green, Prussian blue, got that dark color. We have some time to play with this. Grab the yellow. If you just put yellow in here and then add Prussian blue, look at that green. And just keep moving the color. I'm grabbing more water, so I'm moving the color around. Getting some darker tones. I'm grabbing some navy color. Navy right in there. Oh, my navy's mixing with lavender, but navy. I can grab the yellow, make it green that way. Isn't this fun? Like atmospheric, kind of like funky. Get the blue in there. You can have, I have a paper towel, so you can kind of remove color too if you want to make it feel like there's sun shining rays on there. We'll talk about that in a minute. So now I'm going to start to add some greens down in here. I've mixed up some green. I'm going to mix up some more green. Playing around with this section. And you can kind of do it like, you see like the grass is kind of going all sporadically up like this. Grab some yellow, going up like this. Taking the brush. This is a number 12 Neptune series, by the way. I'm grabbing some more dark green. Remember I talked about the purples? We're going to play with that in a minute. So I've got this bright yellow green going in here. And I'm going to add some Prussian blue around some of these areas. Still, remember we had the masking fluid in these ones? You want to kind of highlight them by adding some darker color around them. I really like this ultramarine blue. Gonna push it up in here. Getting this wet. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. The ultramarine blue looks kind of purple, right? Doesn't it? Just going over here, adding some more of that blue. So much fun to do this technique with the wet on wet. There's a lot of yellow I'm putting in here. And I can add some peacock blue to that. Get a bright green. I'm dipping my brush back in the water jar, moving the paint around, playing around with. Now, if I want to add the purple, but it'd be strategic where I'm going to put it. Might make it a little thicker, so less water, more paint. But I'm going to put some of the blue and the pink. Get that purple around my blooms in here. See, kind of in here. Just tapping that. It's going to really highlight some of those. If it seems kind of muddy because it's going to hit in yellow, maybe just go add the pink instead. So I'm going to go add some pink. Play around with it. I'm loving this. It's just a lot of fun. There's no right and wrong to this. There's just playing. Now there's a lot of yellow blooms in this, so we're going to play around with that in a second. I'm going to add some more dark green. Mixing up some dark green. See, it's really good to have your colors mixed. Get that dark green in there. You can add some ultramarine blue. Why? Because then you're not like me trying to mix it as we go. So I'm taking this ultramarine blue with yellow mix, kind of like a sagey kind of green. It's not a bright green. If you want a bright green, I would suggest using Prussian blue or peacock blue. Try to make a darker green here. Make more of an olive green. Mix them because see that's brown kind of happening in there. Play around with your colors. Got everything in the kitchen sink going in here today, huh? A lot of energy. See that? A lot of energy. Like I said, the photograph had like these deep dark greens. I'm changing to more blues. And why not? There's no rule that you have to keep that. I'm going to go add some more Prussian blue. Could even add some Paynes gray up in here. Just get a little bit darker. Paynes gray, a little burnt umber. Clean up my brush. Get a little more water in there so it moves. It's still going to stay damp and wet. You still have time to play with this. See, mine's a little darker. I do love that ultramarine blue by itself in here. Play around with that blue. Adding the blue in here. Now, if you didn't wet this in the background, back to like a lot, mine's kind of pucking up a little bit. I probably didn't have enough water in this section, but hey, it is what it is. Now I'm going to put it down a little bit so I can play with it more. Still loving all this energy going in here. Get some more green. Playing in here. Just putting in some peacock blue. The stems, just the blue itself. Get it on my brush. Like that. Going from the bottom outward to the top. Get that grass kind of happening. There's a lot of energy going in here. A lot. I do really love the ultramarine blue. Now, you can take your paper towel and kind of just play around with removing paint like the sun's light is coming through, shining through. I might have a little pigment on here. Play with it a little bit. If it has too much pigment, I'm just going to go and grab some water and then lift it up that way. There we go. Just be gentle because you might kind of tear your paper. We don't want to do that. Going to move some more paint around. It's up to you. You don't have to have the sun rays. It's kind of fun to play with. The sun coming through. Okay, ultramarine blue again. Just a little bit darker. Just playing with that. All right, at this point, you could take some thick yellow paint and start to splatter a little bit. And you have to move it a little bit, so you have to add some water. Because remember all those yellow flowers? They're thick and thin. The bigger the brush, the bigger the splatter. I'm going to make this a little bit looser. Or you can just take your brush and dip it in here like this. This is coming out too small, so I'm going to have to kind of do dips like this. Dips around where I splattered. And we see all those little yellow blooms. See, it's thick. The paint is a little bit thick. I'm just tapping it with my number 12 Neptune. So many of those yellow blooms. And the white ones too. We're going to splatter some white. Right? Look at all those yellow blooms. It's fun to play with this. And then I would splatter a few up here. For white, I would splatter some gouache. Now I gotta find my white gouache. Here it is. Loosen that up. The paper's still wet. It's gonna take a while to dry, by the way. Loosen up the gouache. Super loose is gonna be, it's gonna spread out more. I'm gonna add a little more gouache. I think it was too loose. And again, the white. Now we're looking like the field. Right? Little ones up here. It has that kind of fun spring look to it. Little yellow, little white. Here, kind of like, I'm not loving this section. I don't want to overwork it too much. I just want to put a little more blue up there. If you're not happy with yours, don't worry about it. It's going to look cool no matter what. Going to add a little more ultramarine blue for me up in here. You can always use a spray bottle too. So I'm going to lift this up, get some blue loose. And you can use a spray bottle and see, move it. If it's not moving, it will move now. That's how you do it. It's supposed to be like an atmospheric kind of loose. Gonna add some more blue in here. It's not gonna be perfect. I'm playing around with adding color again. And maybe some purple. I like the pink. So I added some blue so I can play around with the pink a little bit. I don't necessarily know if I love this. So maybe I'll go, I know you can overwork your paper, but I might add the blue in here. It's up to you. You can try and do some sunbeams. I don't know if I like mine. Moving that paint around, getting some Prussian blue. Ooh. Sometimes it's fun just to move the paint around. If it's not moving, your trusty old spray bottle will make it move. And just fall, fall, fall. Yeah. Kind of like where I was going for it. Depends on how you want to do it. So this is fairly wet. I mean, woohoo, wet. You're going to have to let this guy dry big time before you lift up any masking fluid. Over here, I need a little something, something. A little bit darker still here. Add some yellow, make some dark green. I initially didn't have the dark green like the photograph, because I like the blue. Gonna add some yellow, make it deeper green. And then I'm gonna splatter in some wonderful gouache up there. Change that a little bit. Yeah. So this is kind of fun, right? So I'm gonna have to let all this dry, and then we're gonna come back, go have a cup of coffee, you know, all that fun stuff. While it's damp but not super like wet and it's almost drying, you can go in with some deeper, darker, like here, I'm gonna mix some darker green. Over here, I'm mixing some deep, dark, thick, really thick paint. So it's Prussian blue, a little bit of yellow, some burnt umber. And you can kind of do some stems. They could bleed a little bit, but if the thicker the paint, they're going to bleed less. You can play around with adding some stems underneath those blooms that we have. Just a little bit. Peeking through up in here. Because they'll bleed a little bit. They won't bleed that much, though. Okay. Clusters of the little stems peeking through. It's our spring wet on wet kind of atmospheric painting. Clusters, and you can put the stems out here. All that good stuff. You can even take thick yellow paint and do the same thing. We could do that better when we let it dry. But you see all that fun stuff? Go in here. Add some Prussian blue. Get the stems happening while it's damp and not dry. If you want it to bleed, you'll do that. A lot of fun, right? And around some of the white masking fluid areas, if you want to just bleed in a little bit of the dark blue around them. See, I'm just grabbing Prussian blue like we did before. You can have a little blue or a little purple, just kind of highlighting around those areas that we had the masking. It's just going to like enhance them because they're going to peel off and they're going to be white. So if you can look and see where you have your masking little guys, just kind of tap around them while it's still damp and wet. If it's not wet, well, that's okay. I'm just doing little tippy taps. It's still very, very damp. And it's going to highlight those little areas that I did with the masking fluid. It's going to enhance it. So you play around with this until you feel satisfied, and then we'll let it dry and we'll remove it. Also, you can also play around with just enhancing like a white area in here, just lifting up some of the paint with my trusty little paper towel. You You can do 2 ways. So that's like a whole very white, like light shining on it kind of situation. If you want to do that, it's up to you. Again, playing around. Yeah, I think there's like one section, maybe a little bit over here. You know, you can play. I'm just doing on the top area, so the bottom is like highlighted. It's kind of fun. Kind of like that taking off. All right, I'm gonna let it dry and see what happens. All right, once that's dry, I use my rubber cement pickup. By the way, these supplies are in my Amazon shop. You can see them in the description box. And I just go in here and I'll remove the masking fluid that we sprayed and splattered and did all that fun stuff with, and see what we come up with. I kind of remove the ends here. That's kind of cool, right? You just never know when you're playing with the masking fluid, if you're just blotting it around. That was like a big one. Remember that one? I might have wanted to add the stems a little closer to going downward, but hey, this tool is so much better than doing it on your own without it. It's so difficult when it's like small ones like this. Look how cool that is. There's my little butterfly floating in the air. And we have these little ones. Voila. Now you could go in some of those areas and just add, like if you wanted to make more of a daisy, just like a yellow center. It's kind of fun to play with, you know. I'm going to grab my Princeton, is this not 8, long round brush and grab some yellow right out of the tube, kind of paint. You could put in a little yellow center if you want it to be a daisy, right? And if it is a daisy, you might want to add a little shadows to it. So I'll zoom in and show you. Grab some either blue or a Paynes gray or a combination of the both. And I'm just going to add a little bit of some shadows in here. It's up to you because it looks so white. You might want to add a little bit of the shadow. There's a little more natural look to it than just bright white. There's one over here. See, I'm just taking that bluish gray color and going from the center outward, adding in a little couple of. I'm gonna put a yellow here. Kind of fun. Again, the wet on wet, so that yellow is probably all done, and you can go back in again and splatter on top of that because now it's dry. Get more smaller, tiny little specks. If you want to play around with putting in bright yellow blooms, I'm just tippy tapping in some yellow daisies, buttercups kind of shapes. And then we can go back in and add some stems. Kind of hold it on its side. See, I'm just kind of going really fast. It's like highlighting the ones we did. They kind of like looked splotchy now and green. And it really pops now. And you can take some nice pretty greens and add some stems or more green colors. It's up to you, or just keep it like in that atmospheric kind of tone. Some bright green stems. Same thing with the white. I wouldn't go too much with the stemmy everywhere. I mean, mine tended to be a lot darker than I was going for, but hey, that's how it looks, right? And then you can take the gouache and play around with just adding little specks Like you see them floating. You can actually make more daisies if you want. It's up to you. Just have fun with this. I might do another colorway that's really bright with all kinds of colors. See, I'm adding that gouache. Technically, it's not a total watercolor with gouache, but I don't care. I'm enjoying myself. And who's to say it matters? I don't. So you go and adding out all those little white specks. And mine kind of blended out here, and I was kind of bummed about that. So now I can go back in and just splatter them back in. If you're a splatter person, some people are splatter people. We know who you are. This is a great tutorial for that. I love it. Splat away. And if you want to try other colors, I mean, I have the blues. And there's a color on, Holbein has it, I love. This lilac. Really pretty. Take it straight from the tube. It's watercolor, so technically it's watercolor, but would you take it straight from the tube almost? Just a little bit of water. Put that in there. Oh, is that pretty? See, we can do little purple ones. And now you're creating kind of like a impressionistic looking painting. I'm just tapping the color in. I'm not really making any specific kind of bloom. See the color? It's really pretty. You can just enhance it around those greens, up in here. Right from the tube. It's a great color. You could even mix some ultramarine blue with that and make them really pretty purple. So I'm going to take some ultramarine with that. And now that's almost opaque. Look at that. This beautiful purplish blue color. Just by mixing the ultramarine blue with it and keeping it on the thick side, right from the tube. Get this beautiful purple. Now, I know we went way off from the actual original photograph, but that's what the photograph is for. It's for inspiration. And then you go in and you do your own thing. You see? You just take that idea of like the atmospheric buttercups and yellows, and then you can go start right back in here and say, you know what? I'm turning this more into a impressionistic style looking painting. And that's where mine's kind of gone, morphed into. That's what I call intuitive painting. You're just playing. And that's the whole point. You can have a plan. I had a plan, and I kind of went off the plan, off the reservation a little bit. Adding those bright colors, but I love it. I feel like I was getting just too dark in here, and I wanted to add some more spring tones. And that's what I'm doing. I'm adding the more purples back in here. Just get a little muddy in my opinion. So lightening it up with that lavender. Just see, I'm just tippy tapping the color. Oh, it's like a really pretty impressionistic style painting now. It's like Monet's garden. Oh, you know, I realized I didn't remove this butterfly. Well, hello. Look at that. It's hiding, and it's kind of like morphed. So play around. You can play around with the gouache too. You can add some more whites, a little bigger. Add the white to that lavender. Look at this. Beautiful, pretty, pale purple lavender color. Gouache to any of the paint is great. And you have this beautiful atmospheric kind of like yellow right on the tube, a little bit of peacock blue, and you've got that nice pretty green. Can make a nice Kelly green with that. If you want to brighten up some of those greens in here that'll seem like muddy, go in and add some green in here, even some Prussian blue just to brighten it up. Play around with it. Mine's morphing, and I'm actually enjoying the morph. I'm enjoying the morph. This bright green. Just gonna play around with that, and then you can just take them dark green. I know I'm rambling, but this is what you do. This is how you paint intuitively. You go around and you figure it out. Got some deeper color around some of the blooms. Add some more stems. All that good stuff. So I hope this was fun. If it wasn't fun, well, I'm sorry. But I'm trying to make it have fun. Just play around. I'm not sure about my sky, but hey, you never know what you get when you play around with wet on wet sometimes. So if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section. Have fun with this. Go wild. You know, maybe you would have done more masking fluid, less masking fluid, more of a sun rays coming in here than I did. Play around with that. Maybe I would have it darker over here. I don't know. I just thought it was kind of fun to play with all of it in the kitchen sink. So leave a comment below and let me know your thoughts. Thank you so much for stopping by. And don't forget to hit the bell notification button to know my tutorial's up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Take care, and I'll speak to you soon.